Long ago, there were two countries, located one next to the other. One was large, and the other was somewhat smaller. For a while, it was calm and peaceful on the border between the two countries. The border was many, many days away from the capital. The two countries each sent one soldier here to guard the stone sign which marked the frontier. The soldier from the larger country was an old man, and the soldier from the smaller country was a young man. The two stood guard on their respective sides of the boundary stone. It was on a very lonely mountain, and there was seldom anyone to be found traveling in these parts. At first, as they knew little of each other, they seldom spoke to one another, as if they were enemies. But after a while, they became friends, little by little. After all, they had no one else to talk to and were pretty bored. And the sun in the spring shone long and warm on their heads. Right on the border, there was a clump of wild roses growing. Honeybees would come and gather on its flowers from early in the morning. The two border guards could even hear the pleasant sound of the bees buzzing in their sleep, as though it were part of a dream. "I must get up. The honeybees are droning so," each said to himself, and they got up at the same time. It was as if they were keeping an appointment that they'd made earlier, and when they got outside, the sun was already out, shining brightly over the treetops. As they came to wash their mouths and faces in the clear spring water flowing out of a rock, the two came face to face with each other. "Well, good morning. Such a fine day, isn't it?" "Yes, it is a fine day. When the weather's good, it makes one feel good too." They talked like this there on the hill, and they raised their heads and looked at the landscape around them. Even the most familiar landscape can give you a new feeling if you look at it with new eyes. At first, the young man didn't know anything about moving chessmen. But having learnt it from the old man, come noon, he would play chess every day with the old man whenever the weather was good. At first, the old man was much better at it and played with some of his pieces missing. But later, they would play with an equal number of chessmen, and the old man would lose sometimes too. Both the young man and the old man were very nice people, and they were both honest and kind. They fought each other on the chessboard as if their lives depended on it, but their hearts were at peace. The old man would laugh with his mouth wide open. "Could it be that I'm losing this time? It's rather disheartening. If it were a real war, I wouldn't know what I'd do now." The young man looked so happy whenever he was on a winning streak. His eyes would shine with enthusiasm as he pursued his friend's king. The air was full of the sound of little songbirds on the branches and the sweet fragrance of white roses. There was winter in those parts too. When it turned cold, the old man would long for the south, where his sons and grandchildren lived. "I wish I could get permanent leave and go home soon," said the old man. But the young man said, "If you go home, some stranger will be coming to replace you." "Oh, it would be all right if the new man were as kind and gentle as you, but it would be terrible if he thought we were enemies. Please stay a while longer. Spring will be here soon." Winter passed, and it was spring again. At about that time, the two countries began fighting a war. Then, suddenly, the two men who had lived in peace and friendship became enemies. It seemed so strange. We're enemies, you and I, beginning from today. I'm an old man now, but I am, after all, a major in the army. If you took my life, you would be promoted. So kill me at once, said the old man. The young man was stunned at these words. What a thing to say! How could you and I be enemies? I must find my enemy elsewhere. They're fighting in the north, so I'll go there and fight. So saying, the young man left the border. Only the old man was left on the border. From the day the young man left, the old man was not himself for some time. Wild roses bloomed. Honeybees droned from sunrise to sunset. The war was being fought in distant parts now, so that even if you listened closely or looked up into the sky, there was no hint of the sound of gunfire, nor a trace of the smoke of battle. The old man began worrying about what had happened to the young man. And so the days passed by. One day a traveler passed through the region. The old man asked her how the war was going. The traveler told him that the smaller country had been defeated. She added that all the soldiers of that country had been killed and that the war had come to an end. The old man began to think that the young man must have died. Thinking over such things, he sat at the base of the boundary stone, staring down in front of him. And as he did so, he grew drowsy. From far away, it seemed as if a great many men were approaching. It was a company of soldiers, and their commander, on horseback, was his young friend. The soldiers were extremely quiet. In fact, they didn't make a single sound. As they passed by the old man, the young man made a silent bow and sniffed the wild roses. Just as the old man was about to speak, he awoke. It was nothing but a dream, after all. A month later, the wild rosebush withered and died, and in the autumn of that year, the old man retired from the service and went back to his home in the south.